COVID cases still surging in the U.S., travel and hospitality companies and their investors are trying to gauge the appetite for getaways. Phil LeBeau has a look at how the airlines are handling an anticipated decrease in demand, especially into the holidays, while Seema Modi is tracking the divergence in the travel names. Phil, let's start with you and these cancellations we're seeing.
Well, Kelly, it's not just cancellations. It's just that you're seeing softer bookings as you look into the fourth quarter. We asked the folks at OAG, which is an airline research and consulting firm, to track the numbers of seats. And they do this on a monthly basis. And it's pretty clear what we're seeing both for September and then as you go into the fourth quarter. In the month of September, the number of seats or the capacity that the airlines will have out there, it's going to be down 9.1%. And in the fourth quarter, it'll also be down just 6.8%. But remember, we're still early. We can see further cuts for the fourth quarter. And all of the major airlines are trimming their schedules. This is not a case of a few trimming it. It's across the board. And here's the reason why. Look at the passenger levels. We have plateaued. It was down 21% in July, started to see some softness in the second and third week of August, really fell off. I wouldn't say fell off, but we really saw a slowdown last week. There were nobody who over 2 million a day in terms of passengers. We haven't seen that in a couple of weeks. So as you take a look at the major airlines, we're talking about American, Delta, Southwest, and United. All of these guys are expecting business travel to be a little softer this fall. And typically, September, October is when you start to see stronger business travel. They're not seeing that so far, so you're seeing some weakness there. And then when you look at the other airlines, they're also seeing some weakness in terms of people, whether it's with bookings or in some cases some near-term bookings or some near-term flights they've canceled. Those customers have canceled those flights. So that's why you're seeing just an interesting and tough period, Kelly, over the next couple of months for the airlines.
How big a catalyst, or in terms of kind of annual demand, obviously I would assume bigger for leisure than for business travelers, but how big of a deal are the holidays if we start to get into that period and people are once again going, not this year?
I think it depends on what we're seeing with COVID-19. I think it's clear that a lot of people have decided, look, I am going to travel. And even as we're seeing resurgence in cases, there's still a number of people who are out there. It's not like travel has fallen off the cliff like it did a year ago. But at the same time, I think there are a lot of people out there, and we're seeing this with the near-term bookings. They have decided if there's a surge in cases, we're going to put off that trip. And we may see that for the holidays.
All right, Phil, thank you. Phil LeBeau tracking the latest on the airline front. Let's turn to Seema now. With this divergence, Seema, we're beginning to see in the travel stock recovery, some holding in there, others dropping back, others still charging ahead.
Yeah, they used to all sort of move in tandem, Kelly, but now what you're finding is that investors are becoming a bit more selective, if you will. It's the names that are really betting on the vacation traveler that are outperforming so far in August. If you look at the cruise lines, up around 9 to 10% so far this month. And then you look at the hotels, a very different story there. Hospitality giants like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, Expedia are down around 4 to 10%. Part of that has to do with this growing concern about the business traveler. The expectation was that come Labor Day, employees will be coming back and would start to check into hotels. But now there's this new survey from the American Hotel Lodging Association, which found that 67% of business travelers are planning to take fewer trips this year. Some are delaying their plans. We heard from Chip Rogers, the president of the American Hotel Lodging Association. Kelly, I know you've interviewed him as well. He's saying that hotels were already on pace to lose more business travel revenue this year than they did in 2020. Now, if companies do delay in-person work, does that increase demand for remote working? That seems to be the consensus amongst sell-side analysts that track Airbnb. Just take a look at this chart. This really tells you the story so far in August, Kelly. Airbnb up around 8% versus Marriott, which is down a similar amount. And that, of course, you tend to think about Airbnb as a travel stock, but the market tends to put it in that stay-at-home bucket on this idea that if this Delta variant becomes a bigger concern, people will prefer to stay in a home versus a hotel.
Yeah, I just think back to July when it was like, great, you know, things are going to get back to normal by Labor Day. And now it's like, no, it's going to be years. I don't know when. It's going to be a lot more of a slog than we had thought.